Well, now that we have our scene fairly well arranged here, I'm going to hit the Z key to go to wireframe. We've got the basic layout down. We've got some textures on it. We've imported it into Unity to kind of get a sense of how it feels and whether or not it's going to work. I think now we can begin cranking out the assets, filling up the space, and kind of giving it a sense that it's lived in. So what we need to do is just begin working on creating more of the objects in the room. I think the next one I want to create is an old TV. I love these old TVs here. Let me go to my Finder here and bring this up. I think I want to add one of these. So something like this, one of these old TVs that you know doesn't work anymore, right? I get the sense that these guys who live in this apartment just moved in and it was already furnished with old junky furniture that had been there for decades. So my sense is this TV is in there, is in the apartment, but it doesn't work. It's just a piece of junk that they haven't thrown out, you know, that they just live with because they have other concerns. So I want to model this. As I think about it, I think it's going to be several different materials. So as you begin modeling now, think back to the way we set up our objects and materials, the different ways we did that, and begin planning ahead for what you want to do as you create new objects. So for this, I think what I want to do is create the main wood piece as one object and one material. I want to create this frame here as another material. It can be the same object joined together, but I think it needs to be another material from the wood grain because the wood's going to be a different shininess, a different roughness than this part here. And I think the TV screen, the actual tube screen here, needs to be pretty reflective, so I think I want this to be yet another material, perhaps even another object. And then these here, these knobs and plate need to be its own material. And then this down here and the screen here needs to be their own materials so they can accept a texture. Now I've got some textures here that I've found that I want to use. So here's that speaker fabric. I like this. I'm going to use that on the TV here. Now let me just open this and open this. There we go. So we can see them at the same time. So I want to use this fabric here. I think that'll work pretty well. And I want to use this nameplate. You can just kind of see that. It's pretty small, but I think I can use it. I want to use this nameplate right down here. I know I'm going to need several different materials. The question is do I need or want several different objects? We'll see. I kind of get the sense that maybe this whole frame, this whole box of the television will be one object and this screen will be another object. We'll see. And of course, we should probably make the UV map all one UV texture, all one texture map. So everything that needs to go on here, everything that needs to be UV mapped should be all on one texture map, even though we have multiple materials and maybe even multiple objects. So let's start with a clean layer. Maybe I'll take the objects in these layers here and just hit the A key to select them all and just move them over to layer 2. I'll hit M and 2 and that will move them over to here. Now I have them all on these layers, so now I can use, say, this layer here. I'll bring in an image of that television. I'll come over here and click on this little tab right here, drag down, create a new window, and let's switch it to a UV image editor right here. I'll click open and I'll go find that reference image I have. Here it is, right in here. There we go. So this is what we're going to be working on. So to begin with, it looks like we need a cube, right? Let's go ahead and create a cube over here. And let's see if we can scale this to an approximate size. I'll swing around here and let's SX and scale out in the X just a bit. Something like that. Maybe we don't need it quite as tall. I'll press S and Z and scale it down just a bit. Something like that. And does it need to be quite that deep? They are pretty deep, but I'll go ahead and scale in just a bit. So there's kind of the general shape of the object. Now if we look here, we've got some areas that we need to block out with edge loops. So we need some edge loops along in here. We need some edge loops up and down right through here. And it looks like there's a little bit of a ridge around the front here as well. So we're probably going to need edge loops there. Let's begin with those front ridges. I'll tab into edit mode, press Control R, and I'll scroll the mouse wheel and create two edges there, two edge loops. I'll hit S and Z and scale those up so they come close to the edges there. And I'll do the same thing for the vertical edges, and S and X and scale out to here, let's say. Now let's get these edges here. We probably need one right in here. Something like this. Perhaps another right in here. Let's get a couple more edges for this part here. Let's go with Control R and maybe two more edge loops and scale those in the Z till we get to about here, let's say. So I think what I'll do is grab these faces in the center here. I'll press the C key for the circle select tool and just click and drag and select these faces here. And I just want to extrude in. I'll hit E and drag in just a bit to get those edges on the front. That'll work there. Now it looks like this piece pushes in a little bit, so maybe these three now can push in just a hair more. No, maybe just this one here. Yeah, I think just that one there. I'll hit E and push in just a little more. There we go. Now for that frame around the tube, what we can do is just use this piece right here. I'm going to split this out into its own object for now, so that if I need to insert edge loops or do anything to it, I won't extend those edge loops out to the other part of the object. I want to just isolate what I'm doing to this particular piece. So with this face selected, I'll hit the P key and I will separate it out by selection. Now if I tab back into object mode and just select that one piece, I can tab into edit mode and here is that face. So now I can hit E and extrude in. I'll scale in a bit, like so. Now I've got duplicate faces in here. I'm going to go ahead and delete these. I'm going to hit X and faces, and again X and faces. Now I can grab these edges here with Alt click. Now I have that edge, and here's that edge right here. Now I can extrude that in a bit. I'll hit E and click, and then I'll drag in some like that, and it looks like it scales in just a hair like this. There we go. And then I'll extrude in again, hit E, and I'll hit S and scale in. And now we've got this kind of curved area here, and this is what I meant about those edges. I want to be able to insert some edge loops to get this kind of curve without extending them all the way around the object. So I'm just going to do, say, 3 edge loops here, and I'll do the same thing over here, like that. And now I can begin to bring these things in. So let's say I grab this edge, and I'll scale it in the X some. There we go. And let's say now I do this point and this point, this vertex and this vertex, and scale those in just a bit. There we go. Now we're just kind of getting that rounded feature there. And maybe I can even select these edges and pull them back just a bit like this. Something like that. All right, let's give that a try for now. We can smooth this. I'll come over here to Tools and Smooth and see how that looks. That looks okay. I can flatten the edges all the way around this. If I go back to Face Mode and click between two of the faces to select that whole face loop, now here in Edit Mode I can go to Shading UVs and just hit Flat for the faces there, and now it will differentiate that a little bit from the smoothed part there. I think I do want to bring this out a bit like this, and then grab that edge and extrude it back just to separate it from the wood part of the television. I'll hit E and then pull that back a bit. There we go. Just so we can see a little bit of an edge there. All right. I think I'd also like to see more of a beveled edge along here. Now we would be adding a fair amount of polygons to this, but I'd like to try it, see how it looks. So if I Alt-click this edge, Shift-Alt-click this, this, and this, let's try and bevel this. Now, using bevel, you need to think about your transforms, applying your transforms in the same way we did when we're UV mapping. So if I hit the N key and come over here in object mode, you can see that my scale is non-uniform. That's going to be a problem once again with our beveling. So I'll hit Control A and choose Scale. And now with these edges selected, I'll press Control B, hold the Shift key down to move the mouse very slowly, and I'll kind of expand this out, and I'll give it maybe 1 or 2 segments. There we go. All right, so now we have that beveled edge there. That looks kind of nice. I also want to take this edge on the inside, and I want to pull those in just a bit. Just a little bit like this. Yeah, something like that. All right, let's take this edge here and just extrude this in. I'll hit E and then pull it in a bit like that. There we go. So now we need to add our television tube and our plates here with our knobs. And in the next video, we'll continue working on that.